Imagine you're eating lunch. Bread is still warm on the table. Wine is poured. Your children are playing in the courtyard. And then, in less than 4 minutes, everyone you love is dead. Not buried, not trapped. Dead, that's not a dramatization. That's exactly what the science tells us happened to the people of Pompeii on one catastrophic morning in 79 CE. For centuries we told the wrong story. We said they suffocated slowly under ash and debris, that they had time to feel it coming. But new forensic evidence has completely shattered that myth. What scientists discovered inside those hollow cavities in the ground is far more disturbing and far more fascinating than anything Hollywood ever imagined. The real destruction of Pompeii wasn't just a volcanic eruption. It was a precise, invisible execution. A wave of superheated gas moving faster than a freight train, hotter than a cremation furnace. And nobody saw it coming until it was already over. So who were these people? What were they doing in their final moments? And what does a frozen Roman city, buried for nearly 1,700 years, still have left to tell us? To understand what really happened at Pompeii, you need to picture the world as it existed on that morning in 79 CE. The Roman Empire was at the absolute height of its power. Emperor Titus had just assumed the throne. Roads connected continents. Aqueducts delivered clean water to cities of hundreds of thousands. Rome was the most sophisticated civilization on earth, and Pompeii was one of its crown jewels. Situated on the Bay of Naples in what is now southern Italy, Pompeii was a thriving commercial city of roughly 11,000 to 20,000 residents. It wasn't the capital. It wasn't even the largest city in the region. But it was alive, a buzzing, chaotic, beautifully ordinary Roman town. Merchants haggled in the forum. Bakers pulled loaves from stone ovens. Graffiti covered the walls, yes, actual graffiti. And looming just 5 miles to the north sat Mount Vesuvius, a mountain so familiar, so quiet, so seemingly permanent. The people of Pompeii had built their vineyards on its slopes. They had no word for volcano in Latin. They had no framework to understand what that mountain truly was. The last major eruption had occurred roughly 1,800 years before their time. To them, Vesuvius was simply a mountain. That terrifying ignorance is what makes this story so haunting. They never knew what was coming, and the city they built, the lives they lived, all of it was about to be locked in time forever. Here's where the real mystery begins, and it's one that archaeologists have been quietly wrestling with for decades. When excavators first began uncovering Pompeii in the 18th century, they noticed something deeply unsettling. Scattered throughout the hardened ash were hollow cavities, voids in the rock shaped like human beings. In 1863, archaeologist Giuseppe Fiorelli had the brilliant and haunting idea to pour liquid plaster into those voids. What emerged were perfect casts of Pompeii's final residents, frozen mid-motion. A man shielding his face, a woman clutching her child, a dog chained to a post, curled in on itself. The world was horrified, and the assumption was immediate. These people had been buried alive, slowly suffocated as ash rained down. But that story never quite added up. If people had time to suffocate, why were so many found in such sudden poses? Why weren't more of them near exits or escape routes? Why did some appear to have died sitting at tables or lying in bed? Modern forensic analysis using CT scans, isotopic studies, and thermal modeling has delivered a verdict that changes everything. The real killer wasn't ash, it wasn't lava. It was something far more immediate and far more terrifying, a pyroclastic surge. A superheated avalanche of gas, rock, and volcanic material, traveling at speeds exceeding 100 kilometers per hour, at temperatures surpassing 500 degrees Celsius. At that temperature, the human body doesn't suffocate. It doesn't even have time to register pain. Every cell vaporizes in an instant. Pompeii wasn't buried alive. It was incinerated in place. The eruption itself began the day before the killing blow landed. On the afternoon of what we now believe was likely a day in late October, not August 24th, as traditionally held. Based on recent discoveries of fresh autumn pomegranates and a charcoal inscription dating to mid-October, Vesuvius began to rumble. A column of volcanic material shot nearly 33 kilometers into the sky. Pliny the Younger, just 17 years old, watched from the town of Misenum across the bay. He described it as resembling a massive umbrella pine tree, a column that mushroomed and spread across the heavens. His uncle, Pliny the Elder, a celebrated naval commander and naturalist, immediately launched ships toward the disaster. Driven by both duty and scientific curiosity, he would not return alive. For the first several hours, Pompeii received a relentless rain of pumice and volcanic rock. Buildings groaned under the weight. Rooftops collapsed. People wrapped pillows around their heads for protection and fled into the streets. Thousands escaped during this phase. Thousands chose to stay. Through the night, the volcanic column pulsed and shifted. The air smelled of sulfur. The sky alternated between absolute darkness and terrifying flashes of volcanic lightning. Animals screamed. The ground shook in waves. And still many people waited. Some were trapped under debris. Some refused to abandon their homes, their valuables, their elderly parents. Some simply didn't believe it could get worse. That hesitation sealed their fate. Just before dawn, the column collapsed. That is the moment everything changed. When a volcanic column loses structural integrity, it doesn't simply fall. It explodes outward and downward, converting its energy into a ground-hugging surge of superheated gas and pulverized rock that follows the landscape like a liquid. 6 of these surges struck the region in rapid succession throughout the night and early morning. The first surges destroyed Herculaneum, a smaller coastal city closer to the volcano. Bodies found there show skeletal trauma consistent with instantaneous exposure to extreme heat. Their skulls, in some cases, had exploded from the internal pressure of rapidly boiling brain fluid. By the time the 4th surge reached Pompeii, the surge that killed virtually everyone remaining in the city, it had cooled slightly. Not enough to survive, but enough to preserve the shapes of what it destroyed. The heat hit somewhere between 250 and 300 degrees Celsius at street level, enough to cause immediate cardiac arrest and muscular rigidity. That's why the casts look the way they do, not people slowly frozen in ash, but people whose muscles contracted simultaneously at the moment of death, locking them into those agonized, curled positions. In less than 15 minutes, a city of thousands fell completely silent. No screaming, no running, no final goodbyes, just silence and ash and the slow, indifferent settling of volcanic debris. Over everything that had been a living, breathing, magnificently ordinary Roman city, Pompeii was gone, and it would stay gone for 1,700 years. When archaeologists finally began uncovering Pompeii in earnest, what they found wasn't just ruins. It was a snapshot, a civilization caught mid-sentence. They found a loaf of bread still in the oven, carbonized but perfectly shaped. They found an election campaign slogan painted on a wall, endorsing a candidate for local office, an election that never happened. They found a fast food thermopolium, a kind of ancient street restaurant, with food residue still identifiable in the stone containers. They found the graffiti. They found the art, the jewelry, the surgical instruments. They found people. And that is the true legacy of Pompeii's destruction. Not the horror, though the horror is real. The legacy is the life. Every object recovered, every cast made, every inscription translated whispers the same impossible message. We were here. We were real. We were just like you. Modern Pompeii draws over 3.5 million visitors every year. Ongoing excavations, particularly in the Regio V sector, continue to produce breathtaking discoveries almost annually. There are still sections of the city that haven't been fully excavated. The story is not finished. Vesuvius, by the way, is still classified as an active volcano, and nearly 700,000 people live within its designated danger zone today. Some lessons history whispers, others it screams. Here's what I want you to think about. Those people in Pompeii weren't waiting for a disaster. They were living their completely normal Tuesday or whatever day it was, with no idea that history was about to freeze them in place forever. It's one of the most profound reminders that civilization is always more fragile than it feels from the inside. So here's my question for you in the comments. If you were in Pompeii that night and the columns started falling, do you stay and protect your home, or do you run into the unknown darkness? I genuinely want to know your answer, because archaeologists believe that instinct, stay or flee, is literally what separated the survivors from the casts. If this story moved you the way it moved me when I first researched it, hit that like button. It helps more people find this channel. And honestly, this story deserves to be heard. Subscribe if you're new here, because next time we're going inside another catastrophic moment that history got completely wrong. And the truth is even more shocking than the myth. Don't scroll past it. You'll want to be here for that one.